Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to my Sims 4 speedrunning video, or welcome to the channel if you are new here. So in today's video, I'm going to be building in the world of Willow Creek, which is one of the base game worlds, and I'm going to be building a big base game only family home that has a treehouse. So this house ends up having 5 bedrooms and 5 bathrooms, and it's built on a 40 by 30 lot. And do you know what? I don't think I've ever built on this lot before. It's called, I think, Brook Bungalow. It's in the neighbourhood where the Pancakes family live. And when I finished this build, I was looking at it and I was thinking, hang on, have I actually ever built here before? Because I don't think I have, and it's such a beautiful lot. And you can see on one side of it, it's got all of these really pink cherry blossom trees. It's really pretty. But yeah, it was a thought that I had once I actually finished this build was I've actually never built here before, but this week I thought it would be fun to sit down and build something only using the Sims 4 base game. Now, I briefly mentioned last week when I built the family lake house in Granite Falls that I wanted to do a base game only build at some point soon, because when we had the Growing Together expansion pack come out, running alongside that we also had a base game update, and where it is an expansion pack coming out, the base game update was quite a big one. Like, we got infants, we also got a ton of new infinite is not a word, but like infant related clutter and like toddler related clutter and a few different like children related items here and there. And yeah, I said that I wanted to do a base game only build at some point soon, because one, more people can download base game only builds, so they're just more accessible for everyone. But two, I also felt like I kind of needed to educate myself on the new base game catalogue, because where we got such a big update, there was so much stuff like added in. I didn't know what was from the expansion pack or what was from base game. And so yeah, this week I thought it would be a good time to sit down and build a house just using the Sims 4 base game. And yeah, this is how it turned out, so I hope you like it. But getting on and talking a little bit more about the build itself. So coming into this build, I knew that I wanted this house to have a tree house, because if you're not aware, with the Growing Together expansion pack, we did get the ability for your Sims to now build tree houses, which is so much fun. Surprisingly, it doesn't actually take that long. I literally just got my Sims to build a tree house last night. If you've got kids in your household, you need adults like supervise and stuff. But surprisingly, it didn't actually take my Sims that long. I thought it would be something that would take your Sims maybe like a day or two to complete, but surprisingly not. They actually they whip up a treehouse pretty quickly. But with the Growing Together EP, we did get the ability to have tree houses, and I have built a few different houses over some time that include tree houses before we got this Growing Together expansion pack. I basically just build like a treehouse shell and then pop a tree into it, and then it's technically a treehouse that way. But because we got the Growing Together EP and there was tree houses in that, I wanted this base game house to also include a tree house, just in case you're someone that maybe really wants to play with the Growing Together expansion pack. Maybe you're waiting for it to go on sale or something, but you also want your Sims to be able to have a tree house in their back garden. I thought it'd be like a nice little idea to have a tree house in this base game only house. That way, even if you have got the Growing Together EP, you can still keep the tree house, or you can delete it if you don't like it and you can replace it with the actual one. But I'm quite happy with the way the treehouse turned out. When I was actually building it, I did pop up a picture on my other monitor of what the actual treehouse in the game looks like, and I tried to replicate the shape of it. I say that it's actually just a square with like a bit of a slanted roof, but I tried to make it seem like the actual treehouse that we got in the expansion pack. And yeah, I'm really happy with it. This one, your Sims can also go inside as well, because if you're not aware, the one that we got from the EP, your Sims basically just like disappear into this little cube in the tree. They can go up on the balcony, and they can also like go down the slide if your Sims upgrade it to a certain point, and you can like attach stuff onto the balcony outside of it. But the tree house in this house ends up being like an actual tree house. Like, there's actually stuff for your Sims to do in there. I think I ended up placing down like the science table, a little like comfy TV area. It's got some like bear looking chairs, and then they're like little penguin TV propped up onto a crate. And then there is also like toy boxes and bookcases and just loads of just stuff to try and make it feel like an actual kids' tree house. But as well as that, in this house, there ends up being, like I've already mentioned, the 5 bedrooms and the 5 bathrooms. Now, if you're curious, I decorated the rooms to be one for a set of parents, one for a teen, one for a kid, one for an infant, and then there is also a spare bedroom downstairs. But I was also thinking, if you wanted it to, you can make it into like a grandparent's bedroom or something. To be honest, I feel like this house is quite it's quite deceiving because I built it to be, you know, like a big base game family house. I wanted there to be loads of different bedrooms, loads of different bathrooms, tons of different activities for your Sims to do. But it doesn't look that big, but if you wanted to, I reckon you could probably fit an extra 2 bedrooms in this house, because the way that I've done it, you can see we've got a garage on the right hand side. On the inside, I decided to make it into like an actual garage. So we have like a woodworking table in there. We also have like a little boxing bag. We have a card table so your Sims can play like card games. There's a few mops in that room and like brooms as well, because I was thinking maybe if your Sim spilt something, maybe like the infant like threw their yogurt on the floor, maybe you got like a messy eater infant, or is that a toddler? I can't remember. My Sims are aged up, but you know, like when kids just their food goes everywhere, there is mops in the garage as well. I use some like debug items in there and like brooms and just like extra gardening equipment, and it looks like, you know, the thing, I don't know what it's called, but you know when your Sims are gardening and say there's loads of like weeds growing out of all the different plants, they have that little like machine, it's like a hoover, do you know the one I'm talking about? There's like that in there as well. There's just loads of different like garagey kind of looking items in the garage, but then there is also one more like formal dining room as well as like the kitchen dining room. So in the more formal one, we've got like a really big table, we've got like extra china cabinets, we've got like an art easel in the corner, just an extra space for your Sims to sit down and eat dinner as a family. But yeah, if you wanted to, you could definitely make that into another bedroom and maybe make the garage into a bedroom for like a teenager. That way you've got 7 bedrooms in this house. But yeah, like I said, it's quite deceiving because it looks like a big house, but it doesn't look like that big of a house, if you get what I mean. But anyway, completely besides the point. Oh, and also before I forget, I made a little pantry in the kitchen, which I'm really happy, I'm really proud of, I'm really excited about that. But yeah, the little kitchen has like a little pantry space, which I'm so happy with the way it turned out. I tried to make it feel like an actual pantry, how you would have in real life. Now, I'm gonna say this, I'm gonna give a little disclaimer, I'm English, we don't have pantries, it's not really like a common thing here. So I just made a pantry off what I see in like TV shows or like films and stuff. I tried to imagine what you would have in a pantry. In the pantry in this house, there ends up being like loads of different like cans and boxes to make it look like, you know, like cans of food and boxes of food and like maybe like their refill stuff. There is also a little coffee station in the pantry as well. So there's a coffee making machine. There is also like a collection of mugs and then like a collection of like coffee bags that look like coffee granules, and it's just, I'm really happy with the way the little pantry turned out. I don't often do pantries in my Sims houses. I think off memory I've maybe done like 1 or 2 before in the past, but when it came into this build, I was initially thinking that I'd make that into like a little base game laundry room. But then when I was actually decorating the kitchen, I just had this idea to make it into, yeah, kind of like a little pantry space. But I will speak about that when we actually move on to it. I do want to talk about what I'm doing right now. So as you can see, I've pretty much built the whole main structure of the house, already done pretty much the majority of the front garden, and now I've already moved over into the back garden. So something that I wanted to mention about the landscaping in this house, because you can see that I've pretty much done the majority of the landscaping. I am going to do a little bit more like here and there in like small increments, but the majority and like the main bulk of the landscaping is done now. But something you might have noticed, I use these little like planter flower beds to kind of like fence in the landscaping. Honestly, I don't know what it is, but whenever I build base game houses, I more so always use these little planters in the landscaping. I just really like them, but I like them so much. I don't know why I don't use them in like my normal every day-to-day kind of landscaping when I'm not just doing a base game build, but it is something that I've noticed. For some reason, whenever I do base game houses, I more so always use these little planters. They're from The Sims 4 base game, of course, but they are from the live edit menu. So the way that you get them is if you enter 2 different cheats. I'll pop them up onto the screen because honestly I'm going to be disastrous trying to remember the cheats off memory. But you enter these cheats into your Sims game and then you have access to both the debug menu and then also the live edit menu. And yeah, them planters are from the live edit menu. But currently, as you can see, I'm just going around and actually landscaping underneath the treehouse. Now the way that I built the treehouse is actually pretty straightforward. Basically what I did is I built like the initial shape of the treehouse on the first floor, and then I moved up to a level. I then duplicated the box to then be basically like a tower. I then deleted the bottom portion of it. I then just built like a little surface porch area, popped a fence onto it, and then just put some like little, I was about to say pillars, what are they called? Columns, to make it look like some sort of like support structure. And then that was basically the main bulk of the treehouse. It is really simple. Like I've mentioned, I've built treehouses previously before we even got the expansion pack, and it's pretty much always the same method. You just build a block and then make another block on top of that block and then delete the first block, and then I was about to say add the columns, but to be honest, the columns are basically just optional. You don't actually need the columns there. I just add them in to make it look a little bit more realistic and make it look like the treehouse actually has like some sort of support structure and like it's not just floating in the air. But I mean, of course, if you just want to have a floating treehouse, you can definitely do that. But yeah, the actual concept of building a treehouse, it is super simple. And then I just added in a live edit tree. The one that I've used is one that I think you can actually find in the world of Willow Creek, but I always use this one particular tree because the tree that I've used is not actually straight, like it doesn't just go straight up. What I like about it, and the reason why I always use this one, is because if you was to actually look at the tree and you was to actually look at the tree house, it kind of goes up in like a curved way, and then the way that the branches curve, it kind of looks like it's supporting the tree house, like it looks like it's supporting it. Like you can place the tree in a way so it looks like all the different branches are kind of like coming out of certain walls and they're supporting other walls. It just basically looks like it's actually hugging the little hut within the tree rather than just being like a blank like straight tree that just goes straight up and then it has no like actual beams for support. It looks a little bit more realistic. But yeah, whenever I build tree houses, I always use that same one tree, which I believe you can just find in the world of Willow Creek. But one thing that I want to mention about the tree house, I feel like this is probably a bit of a given, but I do just want to say it just in case. I did try and make it look like there's a slide coming off the tree house. Unfortunately, it is just purely for decoration. The slide doesn't actually work. It is just something that I thought would look cool. And like I said, I was trying to recreate the tree house that we got from the Growing Together EP, and the tree house, if you upgrade it, it can have a slide. And although the slide in the actual upgraded tree house from the expansion pack is more like a tubey one, I still wanted to try and have symmetry to that tree house. And so using a roof piece, I tried to manipulate it in certain ways to make it like bend and like shape the way like a slide actually would. Now the way that I actually did it is, you know when you have them roof pieces that are just kind of like a slant, it's like a bit of a triangle. I placed one of them down. I then made it so it's only one tile big. I then pulled in the eaves on the left and the right, but then I extended the eaves that are kind of like going further out, so like the top and bottom ones. I extended the top one a lot. I also then curved it using the Shift-C motion. So if you press Shift-C on your keyboard, you'll then get more roofing options. I pressed them to make it look a little bit more curvy because you get more like roofing options that way. And I basically just pulled the eaves out, bent it in a certain way to make it look like a slide, and yeah, it looks like a slide. It looks really cool, but yeah, unfortunately, really sorry, it doesn't work. It's just purely something for decoration, but I think it looks really cool, and also for like storytelling purposes as well. I just feel like this would be quite nice for like screenshots and stuff. But yeah, there is like a little pretend slide as well. But then underneath the treehouse, I tried to make it feel like overgrown and just try and make it feel like no one tends to the gardening underneath the treehouse. So there's loads of different bushes and loads of like overgrown grass, and there's a few different like tree stumps coming out of the grass, and I tried to make it feel like a little bit unattended to, basically. And there is also some monkey bars below the treehouse as well, because I wanted this little corner of the garden to be a little bit more like kid friendly, so like it's like a kid activity centre, if you want to put it that way. But moving back and actually talking about what I'm doing right now, you can see that I've actually come in and I've actually started furnishing the inside of the treehouse. So in here there ends up being 2 little armchairs, a little penguin TV, which I placed down on some crates. I was thinking the crates were maybe like Amazon boxes or maybe like an old delivery or something, and they haven't actually got like a TV unit in the treehouse, and so maybe one of the parents just gave the kid, you know, a few different boxes, and they kind of like plop their little TV up onto these boxes. But there is also a little drawing table in here, the science table, there's also a teddy bear in the corner, and then next to the teddy bear, I tried to make it look like there was like leaning artwork that was yet to be hung up on the walls. So what I did is I just found 2 normal paintings that you can normally just hang up on your Sims walls. I placed them down onto the wall so they're kind of like straight, but then using the tool mod, I highlighted them both green. I then gravity pulled them, pressing Alt, so they kind of came away from the wall a little bit. I then rotated them, so then it looked like they was actually leaning on the wall, and then if I needed to adjust them, I would like slightly gravity pull them back into the wall if need be. And then yeah, it looks like they're actually meant to be paintings. They're actually just like hanging up alongside the wall. And the reason why I use the tool mod is because if I would have just placed down the paintings and not rotated them, then they just look like straight, and they didn't look that realistic, and it just looks a little bit odd. I found myself recently doing this a lot, not even with just like base game houses, but just with my houses in general, because I really like wall decorations of paintings that look like they're yet to be hung up, because to me it just looks a little bit more realistic and just something that you would normally find in someone's house. I feel like everyone's got things that they're still yet to put up on the wall, whether it be like a shelf or a painting or just something. I feel like everyone's got stuff like they need to put up on the wall, but they haven't tended to it. And so in the treehouse, I tried to make it look like that was the case. But outside the treehouse, on the little balcony, there is a little ladder so your Sims can actually get up and down into the treehouse. But then there is also a little doll's house as well as a telescope. Now I placed down the telescope, and then I also found this little stool, which surprisingly is from the Sims 4 base game, but I placed it down next to the telescope to make it look like it's meant to be something where your Sims are maybe like sitting when they're waiting for the stars to come out. Maybe your Sim wants to sit out there and maybe like eat their dinner whilst they're watching the stars or something. But I'm saying surprisingly that it's from the Sims 4 base game, because we actually got that item from the Spa Day refresh. So I don't know if you remember, but quite a while ago now, we actually got an update to the Spa Day game pack, which is a game pack that came out, honestly, donkeys years ago. The Spa Day game pack has been out in the game for so long, but when it first came out, it was one of the very first game packs and just even packs for The Sims 4, and it wasn't really that fleshed out. I mean, your Sims could go to spa and they could practice yoga, but there wasn't really too much that your Sims could do. Don't get me wrong, love the build and buy for it, but for a while the game pack just kind of felt empty in comparison to like later game packs that came out. And so basically the Sims team came in and they basically gave us an overhaul of this game pack, and they gave us the ability for your Sims now to go and get like manicures and pedicures, and your Sims can like be a yoga instructor and all these fun kind of things. But with the pedicures, like when your Sims get their feet done, there's basically like this little stool which the nail person or like the nail Sim would sit on, and then when they'll do your Sims feet, surprisingly it's in the Sims 4 base game debug menu, which I want to mention, by the way, your Sims can't actually sit on it. Like, it's just purely like a little stool that is just kind of like for decoration. So if you want to, you can make it into like a side table or something. I often use this one stool, which is from the Jungle Adventure game pack, and I like to use that as like a nice little side table. I don't know what it is, but the Sims team have this problem with making side tables in the game massive, and so I actually normally just use an armchair for a side table, because I mean it looks like a side table. But yeah, there is this little Spa Day debug stool. I say Spa Day debug stool, it's actually base game, but surprisingly it is in the debug menu. But I placed that down, and I placed it down next to the telescope to make it look like, yeah, your Sims was just sitting out there, maybe eating something. Maybe that's where they want to put like their little book where they write notes about the stars or something, which I thought was really cute. But then also in the back garden, there ends up being, honestly, a ton of different planters, barbecue area, a massive swimming pool, some sun lounges. There is also multiple different chess tables, I'm pretty sure, as well. And then I think that is pretty much it for the back garden. I basically tried to cram in everything that I could think of that would fit into the back garden, apart from the like the massive playground thing. That is the one thing that I know that I didn't place down to the garden, which I probably could have, but I just didn't want to make it seem like it was out of place or something. But anyway, moving on. As you can see, I've now moved on into the inside of the house, and like always, I started off by the front door area. Again, I feel like I did this last week and maybe even the week before, but for some reason I decided to make the entrance hallway in this house absolutely massive, and I actually gave myself such a chore trying to figure out, okay, how do I actually like decorate this and how do I clutter this to make it feel like a lived-in family home that's not just got like a massive entrance hallway, because I mean, at the end of the day, it has a massive entrance hallway. I don't know why I keep on doing this to myself recently, but I feel like my last like maybe 2 houses have just had really big entrance hallways, and I always find hallways really, really difficult to decorate. But either way, I managed to make it work in this house. Basically, what I did is I found this massive rug, I plonked it into the middle of the room, which kind of made the room feel a little bit smaller. I then placed down like a little side table. I moved objects, some wall prints that are meant to be hanging on the walls, but I actually moved objects them onto a side table, and then I I rotated them to make it look like they were actually like framed prints. I placed them down to the side table, as well as some like little baskets and like a plant. There is also like a armchair, a chess table, and then also a bookcase and I think a plant in that room as well. But yeah, I had a lot of difficulty and a lot of trouble trying to figure out how do I make this feel cozy and wholesome and just cutesy when it's such a big space. I don't know why I keep on doing it to myself recently. Honestly, I need to sort it out. But yeah, that was the entrance hallway. But then quickly, you would have just seen me do it the kitchen. So the kitchen ends up being quite big, decent sized kitchen. I use them traditional base game counters, which are some of my absolute all-time favourite counters. If you've been watching me for a while, you know that I always use them. They're just my absolute favourite counters in the game. I just can't help it. But I use them, and then I also have like a little kitchen island in the middle. And then there is also a little archway which goes into the pantry that I was talking about. So I don't know if you would have called it, but in the pantry I basically placed down one tool cabinet and then 3 normal counters, and then I placed down some shelves onto the wall as well. Now onto the shelves like that are next to the big cabinet, I cluttered it up with loads of different debug menu items. Honestly, the amount of debug stuff that is in this house, I just use the debug menu basically to its full potential, because where I was using the Sims 4 base game and no other like external DLCs, you really are limited with like your clutter and just like your objects. Like there isn't that many clutter pieces in the Sims 4 base game. I mean, granted, it has come miles since the game first launched in 2014, which I would actually love to get I don't even know if it's possible, but I would actually love to get my hands on the official launched version of The Sims 4 back in 2014 when it first launched, because I don't know if you know this, but the first version of the game, we didn't have swimming pools, we didn't have ghosts, platforms weren't a thing, there was like window placement. Oh, I remember the day when we got the window placement update. You know, when you place down a window and you can kind of place it freely, that wasn't a thing. That's only really been a thing in the last few years. I would actually love to get my hands on the first version of The Sims 4. I think you can do it some way. I have seen a video of James Turner, formerly known as the Sims Supplier, do it once upon a time, but I would love to get my hands on it and actually try and build a house just using like the core game back in 2014. But yeah, the game has come miles since then, but even now I feel like we are still quite limited in clutter pieces. The new update that we just got, we did get a good handful of new like baskets and like toys and just like kid related items, but just general like your living room clutter, your dining room clutter, even like kitchen clutter, I feel like we are quite lacking. So I did try and use as much as the debug menu as I could possible in this house, and you might notice it because I placed down like loads of different like fossils and loads of different like postcards and just things that you can find in the debug menu, and like toys as well, and statues, and just stuff that your Sims can actually find in and around the world, but is just not in the normal like build and buy catalogue. But besides the point, moving on from that, as you would have seen, I just quickly did the lounge room. So in the lounge room, I'm not gonna lie to you, I had such a mare. I really struggled with that room. I must have attempted to do it so many different times because the shape of it was just so higgledy-piggledy. I mean, I did do it to myself. I did it because I wanted there to be like a nice bump out on the left-hand side of the build, because I really wanted the roof line to look like a certain way. But then with doing that, the rooms on the inside were going to be a little bit skew with, like they were going to have like this weird bump out, and it was fine for the left hand side because I knew for the left hand side I was going to make it into a bedroom, and then that little bump out could just be like a little ensuite. But then when it came around to doing the living room, I just didn't know what formation I want the furniture pieces to be in. Originally I was going to put a fireplace in that room, but then it wouldn't have worked out, and then I didn't want the sofa like not being completely like alongside a wall, because originally I placed down the sofa, but then like one corner of it was kind of like sticking out, there wasn't a wall behind it, and then to me it felt off, and then I just had such a mare with that room. Eventually we got there in the end. I used the sofas which are from I think it's a Tech Guru career. It's like an unlockable. Your Sims, if they get to a certain level, they can unlock that sofa, and if they get a promotion, they do get given it for free. But I used 2 of them in there, as well as like a little computer desk in the corner. There is also like a bookcase. There is the big windows that kind of look out onto the garden, kind of like overlooks the swimming pool area, and like a little coffee table in there, and just some odd bits and pieces here and there. But yeah, I really struggled with that room just because I didn't know how to do the bump out in the corner. Eventually I just made it into a study space. That's where the bookcase is, and also where the computer desk is. But yeah, I really struggled with it. But either way, besides the point, moving on, as you would have seen, I just quickly did the more like formal dining room. Like I said, if you wanted to and you don't want to have 2 dining room spaces in this house, you could definitely make that into like a 6th bedroom, and then maybe potentially make the garage into a 7th bedroom. But I just didn't know what to do with it, and I was potentially thinking about making it into another bedroom, but then where I wanted this house to have infants, I wanted the infants room and the parents room to be quite close together, because in gameplay, like infants will wake up in the middle of the night and like they need their nappy changed, or like they need to be soothed because they're scared, they've had a nightmare or something. And just for like general gameplay purposes, it is just so much easier if you have a parents room close to the entrance room, and so I didn't want to have like the parents' room downstairs and then have the entrance room upstairs. And so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to make it into another dining room space. Maybe if you do decide that you want to download this house and you want to play on it, maybe over time, if you do have like a generations kind of thing going on and the infant ages up and you no longer have like a baby in the household, you can then definitely change the more formal dining room into like the parents' bedroom. And then maybe as your Sims like get more family members, you can alter the house. And I say this all the time, whenever you download my builds from the gallery, honestly, feel free to do whatever you want with them. If you don't like the way that I decorated it, feel free to change it out. Trust me, I won't be offended. Like, you can do whatever you want to it. You can alter the rooms, you can change the layout. At the end of the day, you're the one that's playing in the house, not me. I mean, even though actually saying that, I do often play in my own houses, but when you download a builder from the gallery, you're going to be the one that's going to be playing in it and not the builder. And so if you ever want to change any of the houses around, you want to switch out the rooms, and honestly, feel free to do whatever you want. But yeah, I just thought I'd mention it, that the dining room could be a potential extra bedroom if you need the space for it. Like I said, this house is deceivingly big. I feel like from the floor plan as well, granted it has got an absolutely massive hallway, but the actual floor plan of the house is quite easy for gameplay. Like, when I was coming in and I was getting my Sims to playtest this build, it was really easy to get them to like maneuver from like room to room and stuff. But either way, precise point. Moving on, as you would have seen, after the dining room space, I just quickly did one of the first bedrooms. So that is the bedroom that I decorate to be kind of like a spare bedroom, but then also could kind of just be like a grandparent's bedroom if you want to have like a generation's legacy family living in this house. In there, I placed down a fireplace. I wanted to make sure that there was a fireplace somewhere in this house, and where I couldn't seem to make it fit in the lounge room, I thought, well, I mean, this bedroom is big enough for it, might as well plop one down into here. And so it ends up having a fireplace. There's also like just the standard stereotypical bedroom items. There is like a chest of drawers, there is a mirror, a few plants in the corners. There is, I'm pretty sure, also like an armchair in that room as well. And that room, I know I've already kind of mentioned it, but there was a door which kind of goes into a small little ensuite, which has one of the shower and bath combos, and then also just like a toilet and a sink. But now, as you can see, I've now moved on into the next room, which is the garage space. So in here, like I've already kind of briefly gone over, it's basically just like a realistic-ish kind of garage. So this is things that I feel like stereotypically you would have in your garage. So if you don't have like cars or like motorbikes or bikes, or I don't know what you have in your garage, I just have like boxes in mine. But if you was to have a garage and it's just basically like a storage place, isn't it? Like, it's just where you place down like your Christmas tree, or where you place down like certain objects and certain things that you need throughout the year, and when you don't need them, you just kind of like plonk them into the garage. Now in here, I wanted it to also just be like an activity room. Where I'm building a base game house, I wanted to try and include as many activities as I could possible, and so the garage space was just kind of like the perfect place for that. So in here we have the woodworking table, we also have the card table, we have a little like TV unit. I did a similar thing to what I did in the treehouse. If you remember, in the treehouse I placed down them little crates, and I said that I thought they could be like Amazon parcels, or just like past boxes of like previous deliveries or something, and the kids just kind of like propped their TV up onto it. I basically did a very similar thing in here, but I was thinking that maybe like the parents have like a group of friends that they see every once a week or every so often, and maybe they come in here and they play cards together, and maybe like they turn the TV on as a bit of background noise or something. Also ends up being like a little boxing bag in the corner, so your Sims can get up their fitness skill. And then there is also one of the garage murals, which are also placed on the outside, but because I wanted it to feel realistic, I then basically got the same object and then flipped it, so then it looks like it was the inside of the garage. And if you are curious, because I've used this before in the past in base game houses and people have been confused, it's kind of like a similar situation with the Spardo stool. So the garage mural, we actually got introduced with the City Living expansion pack, but for some reason there's a base game live edit menu version of one, and so I plopped that down onto both the outside of the house and then on the inside of the house as well. But yeah, I've used this before in the past, and people have questioned whether it is actually a base game house because they've seen the mural and they've just thought that it was like a City Living exclusive. Funny enough, you can actually just find it in the live edit menu for the Sims 4 base game. But yeah, I plopped that down into there. I also did a similar thing with paintings that I did in the treehouse. So again, I just plopped some paintings onto the wall, and then I pulled them out and then rotated them to make it look like they were leaning. I also flipped one painting, which I really liked the back of it, because the back of the painting that I flipped, it looks like it's got, when you like hang up a painting onto the wall and you've got that little bit of metal that kind of like hangs off the screw, it looks like it's got one of them on the back of this painting, and I really like the look of it. Didn't really like the actual painting itself, because I'm pretty sure the painting that I rotated just to get like the back of it is a flying pig. Not personally my cup of tea, but it doesn't matter because I flipped it so you won't even see that. But yeah, I flipped some more paintings and made it look like, you know, extra storage, extra just things that your Sims have to put up and just haven't got round to it. But now, as you can see, I've now moved on to the upstairs portion of the build, and I just quickly went around and finished off the first bathroom. Now, like I mentioned, there is 5 bathrooms in total in this house. There ends up being 3 upstairs and then 2 downstairs. One of them is that ensuite, and then there is also just kind of like a general bathroom downstairs, just because it's useful for like gameplay purposes to have a toilet by the front door or by the kitchen, just because to me in my Sims houses the kitchen is like where you will find the majority of my Sims, like the majority of the time, because like it sounds really cheesy, but the kitchen is literally the heart of the home, and so it's always useful to have a bathroom downstairs. So there is 2 downstairs and then 3 upstairs, but like always I only ever show the furnishing of one. One thing that I do want to mention about the bathroom, because you're probably questioning what it was when I pulled it out, but when I was just finishing up doing the bathroom, just directly next to the shower and bath combo, I placed down something and it kind of looks like an egg. Basically, you know, infants in the game, when you give them a bath, where infants, they're tiny, they're little, they can't really support themselves, your Sims will basically put infants into this little like plastic egg thing. I don't know what it's called. Like I used to have one when I used to look after my nephew. I can't think what it's called, but basically when you have infants in both real life and in the game, you have this thing that you put them into so they can have a bath and, you know, they don't just like bobble around in the water. I basically found the debug menu version of it and I placed it down into the bathroom just because there is an infant in this household, and so I feel like they would have that kind of thing, and so as basically decoration I placed it down into the bathroom. But then quickly you would have just seen me do it the infant's room. I'm not gonna lie to you, when it came around to furnishing the inside of this house, I was mostly looking forward to just furnishing the infant's room, just because infants are just so new in all of our games, and like we've literally just got the release of them, and obviously where it was a base game thing, we've got so many new base game items for infants. And like I said at the start of the video, I wasn't sure what was from the expansion pack, what was from the infant update. Like it was just, I was so confused, and so I was really looking forward to actually furnishing the infant's room to actually discover all the new infant items. And to tell you what, I'm actually really surprised with the amount of just baby clutter that we now get in the game. I am still a little bit unhappy, is if that's the right word, with the fact that we still don't have infant changing tables. Like when we got the ability to be able to change infants' nappies and also toddlers' nappies at the changing table, I really thought that was going to be a thing that was going to come in the Growing Together expansion pack, and then we'll get one version of it that will be a base game item. Unfortunately, changing tables are still locked behind the DLC, which yeah, I'm a bit gutted about, to be honest with you, but it's alright because I tried to make it look like there is a changing table in the infant's room. I just did my old trick that I've done for literally years at this point. I basically just used a chest of drawers and then just merged in kind of like this little ottoman onto the chest of drawers to make it look like a little padded area, and then next to the little padded area I placed down like extra nappies. It looks like there's like what they call like cotton buds, like ear swaddy things or whatever it's called, bottles of lotion and little baskets and stuff to try and make it feel like an actual changing area, like a changing station. But then as well as that, you would have quickly just seen me do it the kids' room in the house. So in the kids' room, it ends up having like a little computer desk, ends up having a frog as a pet in that room. I was going to place down a goldfish, but then when I was scrolling through the debug menu, I found one of the debug frogs that your Sims can find in and around the world, and so I thought it's a nice little detail to add into the kids' room. So yeah, the kid has a frog. I also went for a little bit of a space theme in there. Honestly, unintentionally, I didn't mean for it to be like that, but when I actually came into this house and I was playtesting it and I was taking the screenshots, I noticed that there's a lot of like space and rocket related stuff in that room, and so maybe the kid that lives in this house just really loves space. Maybe one day they want to grow up and become like an astronaut or something. But now, as you can see, I've now moved on into the next bedroom, which is the teenager's bedroom. Now in here, I really wanted to use a double bed because I have this thing, whenever I have teenagers in my game, I always like them to have a double bed just in case they've got a partner or something, they want to have a sleepover. But there wasn't really any, I don't want to say nice, but there wasn't any appropriate, I felt, bed swatches for a teenager's room from a Sims 4 base game, and so I decided just to opt for the same bed that I use in the kids' room, but just in a different like pattern, different bed swatch. So I ended up using the same bed, but just basically in white. There ends up being like a little computer desk in here, like a guitar, like a little corkboard as well. There ends up being just loads of different bits and pieces. I was thinking that maybe this teen is really into gaming, and so maybe that's why they've got 2 computer monitors. And initially I was going to place down the the Lindsay speaker that your Sims can talk into. It acts like one of them things that we actually have in real life, which I don't want to say the name of just in case anyone has one. I don't want to accidentally activate it, but you know the things that you can speak to and they come with Amazon. I was going to place down one of them into that room and then size it up and make it look like an actual, like a big PC. But then I was thinking, well, it is also just like a gameplay object. And so I thought, instead of sizing it up, I'm just going to leave it to be its original size and then just use it as a speaker. But then quickly, you would have just seen me do it. The upstairs hallway furnishing. Honestly, there isn't that much out there. There is just like a side table, a plant. I think I added like a mirror onto the wall as well. One thing that I really struggled with when it came around to furnishing the inside of this house was definitely wall decorations. So I just didn't know what to use, and just I feel like we've got so many different traditional looking wall decorations in the Sims 4 base game, and also a lot of music related wall decorations. And sometimes when you have Sims that aren't maybe more so musically inclined, it can be quite difficult. But one thing that I did actually save for the parents' room, which I've now moved on to, is this kind of like microscope print. I popped it kind of like above the parents' bed, and it actually turned out really nicely because the swatches and like the colour swatches in the painting just so happened to go really nicely with the bed swatch that I decided to use. But in here, I'm just going to go around, finish it off, add some final touches, and that is basically it. So anyway guys, I'm going to end this voiceover right here. As always, you can download this build via the gallery. My gallery ID is JessicapieYT, or you can just search for the hashtag JessicapieYT or just the hashtag Jessicapie. As always, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and as always, if you do like my content, then please do subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in my next Sims 4 speedrunning video. Bye guys.